Brigitte Bardot didn't just walk away from fame, she openly rejected parts of the life the world expected her to live. Not the cameras, not the attention, but something far more personal. Decades after becoming one of the most recognizable women on the planet, Bardot would make statements that shocked even her strongest supporters, not about cinema, not about politics, but about motherhood itself. And those words, spoken in her own voice, continue to divide public opinion to this day. Before the controversies, before the headlines, Brigitte Bardot was a cultural earthquake. In the mid-1950s, French cinema introduced the world to a presence that felt entirely new. With the release of And God Created Woman in 1956, Bardot became more than an actress. She became a symbol. According to film historians, the movie didn't just launch a career. It redefined how female freedom was portrayed on screen. Shot in Saint-Tropez, the film captured something audiences weren't used to seeing: a woman who appeared unconcerned with social expectations. International success followed quickly. Within just a few years, Bardot was no longer a French star. She was a global one. Publicly available accounts describe how her image spread beyond cinema. Artists, musicians, and writers referenced her. Fashion trends shifted. Intellectuals debated what she represented. In 1969, she even became the first real woman chosen as the model for Marianne, the symbol of the French Republic. But while the public image projected confidence and liberation, Bardot's private life was already far more complicated. According to interviews she later gave, Bardot never felt fully comfortable with the role the world assigned her. She worked constantly throughout the late 1950s and 1960s, appearing in high-profile films with major directors, including Jean-Luc Godard and Louis Malle. She also recorded music, collaborating with Serge Gainsbourg on songs that would later become iconic. Yet behind the scenes, Bardot repeatedly described feeling overwhelmed. In multiple interviews, she said fame felt less like freedom and more like confinement. By the early 1970s, at an age when many actors were reaching their peak, Bardot made a decision that stunned the industry. She retired from acting entirely. She was just 39. What followed would redefine her public identity and eventually bring her personal choices, including motherhood, into sharp public focus. After leaving cinema, Bardot dedicated herself almost entirely to animal rights activism. She founded what would become the Brigitte Bardot Foundation, focusing on animal welfare, conservation, and anti-cruelty campaigns. Supporters praised her commitment, noting that she invested both money and public influence into the cause. Critics, however, argued that her increasingly outspoken political views overshadowed her activism. Over time, Bardot became associated with controversial political positions. French court records show she was fined multiple times for statements judged to incite hatred. These rulings were widely reported and remained part of the public record. But amid political debates and activism, another aspect of her life began resurfacing in interviews, one that felt deeply personal and impossible to separate from her legacy. Motherhood. Brigitte Bardot has spoken openly and repeatedly about becoming a mother. According to multiple published interviews, she stated that motherhood was not something she wanted and that she felt pressured into it by social expectations rather than personal desire. In one widely cited interview, Bardot described pregnancy as something she experienced with distress rather than joy. She later said that she did not feel naturally drawn to motherhood and struggled with the role from the beginning. Importantly, these are not accusations made by others. They are Bardot's own words shared publicly over many years. Her son, Nicolas, was born in 1960 during her marriage to Jacques Charrier. Bardot later acknowledged that her relationship with him was distant, particularly during his early life. Publicly available sources indicate that Nicolas was largely raised by his father after Bardot and Charrier divorced. While Bardot's public image was glamorous and powerful, her relationship with her son, Nicolas, was often described in interviews as distant. Public sources indicate that after her divorce from Jacques Charrier, much of Nicolas's upbringing was handled by his father. Bardot herself acknowledged in interviews that she struggled to balance her fame, activism, and personal life. Some accounts describe Nicolas as maintaining a private life, rarely appearing in public with Bardot. Over time, their interactions became limited, reflecting a complex family dynamic rather than a personal rejection. This aspect of her life has intrigued both historians and the public, highlighting the challenges of intense fame and personal freedom. Bardot's statements about motherhood, paired with her political activism, often drew strong reactions. Journalists and commentators noted that while she was admired for her career and her work with animals, her candid remarks about not wanting to be a mother were controversial. Some praised her honesty, framing it as an example of autonomy and personal choice. Others criticized her, interpreting her words as neglectful. Reportedly, these public debates only increased Bardot's mystique as someone who consistently defied societal expectations. After retiring from acting, Bardot became a highly influential figure in animal rights activism. Her foundation has had global impact, rescuing animals, promoting legislation, and raising awareness. According to sources from the foundation, Bardot dedicated significant time and resources to her cause, and her activism continues to be cited in discussions about celebrity influence and social responsibility. Her legacy, therefore, is a mix, celebrated as a cultural icon and influential activist, yet controversial in certain personal and political choices. Bardot's life demonstrates the tension between public expectation and personal autonomy. She once stated in interviews that her decisions, whether to leave film, speak out politically, or focus on activism, were guided by personal conviction rather than public approval. The distant relationship with her son, as described in public sources, is presented not as a judgment, but as part of a broader narrative about the complexities of personal freedom, celebrity life, and societal expectations. Her legacy is complex. While many celebrate her as a cinematic icon and pioneering activist, others have critiqued her outspoken views. Commentators note that Bardot's statements and choices often spark debate, reflecting the broader challenges faced by women in the public eye, balancing personal freedom, social expectations, and public scrutiny. Reportedly, these discussions continue to define how she is remembered, even decades after she left the silver screen. Even at 90, Bardot's life continues to raise questions. How does someone maintain influence long after stepping away from fame? And what can we learn about freedom, responsibility, and personal choice from her journey?